Julian. I'm glad to have you on. Julian's the founder of Anywyse, which is a unique solution that he'll get into later. But the one thing that stands out to me is I was reading a bit of your background with one of my colleagues is you always stood up for people at school because you thought it was injustice. Why do you think you were the person that stood up for them? Even now in reflection, you might think it's immaturity. You backed their immaturity, but no, I'm not sure. But why do you think you were the kid in the classroom that went to protect people that got themselves in a precarious situation?
I think so. Now I see a lot of immaturity, but if I go back to the angle, so I grew up with two parents divorcing when I was like 8, and I was mostly so my father was always traveling for his work, and I was mostly taken care of by my grandfather, who was the kindest and most respectful person you could ever meet. And he was always his biggest focus in life, I think, was to just make sure that I grew up well and that we always were respectful for others, respectful for other older people, helping other people. Like when he was 95-year-old in like this like in his last days, he was in his elderly home and he had dementia and stuff. He couldn't do like much. But still the first thing when I came in, what he asked was like, did you offer drinks to everyone on the table as well? Like did you take care of everyone? So I haven't really, this is the first time I actually think of it like that. But maybe it was so like, I don't know, pushed in, but like so because I saw my granddad like 3-4 days a week. Um very normal thing to see what you can do to help. And mixed with an authority problem. Um and I was also a smooth talker, so I was good with words, which also helped in discussions.
Okay. But so your father gave you a construct, a social one. Why, it is a grandfather, why did you act on it? It can't just be because you were a smooth talker. Why do you think you acted on it versus just taking it in and as a lesson?
I think to satisfy him in deepest essence.
Right. Did you ever talk to him about it after you did it?
No, I don't think so.
What else could it have
It
been?
was an internal. I really don't know. There's just this strong thing in my stomach which starts to when like stupid things happen to people which they don't deserve. My stomach, like my body physically just can't do anything. When COVID hit the Netherlands, I couldn't sleep for the first 4 nights because I was just sick of the fact that I couldn't do anything because so many people were having a bad time.
Mm. It sounds like you don't like will being held back.
What do you mean by that?
It sounds like when your free will is held back or someone else's free will is held back, it doesn't sit right with you.
Yeah, that resonates.
Right. Which is different to being nice and treating people nice, isn't it?
I think being nice is a choice and something you do to get accepted.
Right.
Fighting for something is something different. I think that's just something you can't deal with it. So you need to you need to take care of it, or else, yeah, you just can't
Right.
do any other thing.
And why is free will so important to you, do you think?
I think in a later stage in life, because I became sick and almost died. I find it so strange that we as human beings find so many reasons not to do a lot of things which we want to do in life. We find so many excuses. We think that other people think certain things of us, which really they hardly ever think of us. But there's just nothing to lose in life. So there is nothing, like there's nothing to block your free will. Like you do this thing in life, live a good life, then you die, and then you won't bother anyway. So that's the only thing we really know. So there's just nothing else, I think.
Okay. So there's nothing else other than free will.
I think we build a lot of constructs around it.
Okay. And then before you went to hospital, we'll get into that shortly, but this is you as a kid at school enacting, knowing that none of this other stuff that happened to you was going to happen. Why was it important to you then?
Funny thing is that I always have like this pre and post sickness, and I always think that I just became a different person. So I never zoomed too much in before being sick.
So let's go there then. I don't care about after being sick.
Yeah.
Quit bringing it
Yeah.
up. You're in school. Your friends have done something. There is now an overbearing response from a teacher-like figure, and for some reason,
The essence there was always for me that I just couldn't understand why certain people, like if they were really good teachers, if they really knew what they were doing and they got my respect, I would never be in a fight with them. I would never be in an argument whatsoever. But if there were people who were just use the fact that they are in a certain position to their benefit of not needing to think or explain things well to people who are younger, then that's just nonsense and it doesn't make sense. And I think that's what always triggered me so much was like, you're just not being helpful or respectful to this younger person simply because of the fact that this is a younger person, which is so strange. Like that doesn't give you anything.
So was it the acknowledgement that people that were younger or rawer weren't given the full cup of free will, and that bothered you?
Yeah, because if you push someone, for example, if someone's already a bit shy, and if that person speaks up once or something, and a teacher goes crazy, then you push that person back further down the line where they actually came from, which will probably result that that person is never going to do anything they really want to do or believe in, because they believe that the only thing which they know is that if they go there, they get punished. So if you let that go always, as human beings entirely, I think, then you will end up with a huge part of us humans not daring to do anything because they're afraid of being punished.
Right. So then,
nothing good comes from that.
Now reflecting for the first time, why did you think it was important at that age to act on when free will was challenged? Are you saying it stopped people's potential and that bothered you? What are you saying?
I think that comes closest.
Why do you think it bothered you enough? Why do you think people's forward potential being bothered you enough at such a young age? Who does that mean you are?
Because
Who thinks like that?
I don't know. I always see it as I've been extremely privileged. This is more the standard talk, I think, but it is what I believe. I've been super, super privileged to be born in a good country, educational system, parents who love me, brothers and sisters. I've had everything. And the only thing you can do is help out with, I think. If you already won a lottery ticket, like it doesn't make sense not to use that.
So it sounds like you knew what happens if someone's potential is pushed and you wanted other people to have the same opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we jump out of school, we then jump into hospital. You find out that you're sick. What happens? How do you feel? What's going on right now?
So um, I was just at the University of Amsterdam, and I came from like vocational education. And if you, I remember telling someone in vocational education, like, I'm going to go to the University of Amsterdam, and the first thing they said was like, maybe don't say that stuff out loud, because it was a very long road. So I finally was there, and then I indeed got sick. What happened to me then? Actually, first reflex, because I was diagnosed on a Monday morning by a doctor, and
What
then
did you
in the
get
hospital
sick
on
with?
Monday afternoon. Cancer.
Okay. How severe?
Sorry.
How severe was it?
Well, it was at the beginning pretty okay. It was testicle cancer, so you do an operation, which is very weird if you're a young man. So I had the operation the next day straight away, because they want to stop the disease from getting into the rest of your body. And so it got diagnosed on Monday, and on Tuesday morning operation. On Monday evening, I lived in a big student house with like 14 other students. So we had like a big dinner with my mother there and my sister and stuff. It was actually, I was just like, guys, I'm gonna get this over. Like, I went into, I think the weirdest moment of that day was very interesting. The doctor said, this is a weird thing, you need to go to the hospital. So I was alone back then. I was just at the doctor's. And so I take the bus to the hospital, and I sit in the bus, and it was in the winter. And I look into the window, and I see myself sitting. Like, I look myself in the eyes. And the weirdest thing is that I thought, like, because I wasn't diagnosed with cancer yet, but I knew things like this, you know something is not right. So I look myself in the mirror in that bus, or like in the window, and I started laughing. And I started laughing because the first thought that came to mind was I found it hilarious that cancer thought it could influence my life, that it could change where I was going. And I just started laughing out loud, and then later I got diagnosed. But it was a very, very strange moment. And I haven't thought of it for a very long time.
It sounds like you didn't even let a life-ending disease affect your free will or your idea of it.
No, I also never at any point in time thought that I was going to die. I didn't consider it an option.
Okay. And as you went through that experience, what else did you take away from it? How did it help you become an entrepreneur, or how does it stop you being a good one? Or what you just mentioned that it would never kill you, so it never took away your determination. It never took away your drive.
I think
What happened? How did it make you feel?
it switched me. Like I was always talking about companies I would start and blah 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 blah, but I never did it. And the moment I got sick, I thought, okay, well, if it can be over so quickly, because the whole situation is very serious, right? You talk about like the sickness a lot with doctors and with oncologists and everything. So you are aware of the fact that, like, okay, this is not something like it's a serious thing. So for me, it immediately switched. I started my first two companies in the hospital because I was just like, I can't lose. Like, we have all these imaginary things in our mind, which, like, what if that goes wrong? Or what if that goes wrong? But if you just keep breathing, you're good. Like, there's nothing more to it. And that's makes everything so extremely simple. Yes, your company might go bankrupt. Yes, the half of the world, like, even if half of the world might hate you, you're still alive. You're breathing. Like, every day and that's something I learned in the hospital, was like, I was always in the hospital for 5 days, and then I got out, then a couple of days rest, then in, and like over. And especially when it was like when I could go outside again, I would just like stand in the sun and be like, just enjoy the sun so extremely intensive, because you just like the glow on your skin, which is something I would wish for me today as well again, that I could experience that like that, but for everyone, because it's the easiest thing on earth. And it's, yeah, it was a very relieving experience in some sense.
Okay. So the entrepreneurship becomes a bit of a escape or a path back, but you're unencumbered. Right.
Yep.
Right. And then what happened? How did you get to
So it came out of,
Anywyse from your first two businesses?
so I had this thing when I was in the hospital due to all the chemotherapy in my brain, that I couldn't read things anymore and remember them. So I would be at home, and I worked very hard to be at the university, and then I couldn't do anything anymore because my brain just couldn't read and store that information. So I tried study books. I ended up with children's novels, like kindergarten stuff, and nothing. I just couldn't remember 2 sentences, which made me feel incredibly stupid.
Right. Fair
Because I
enough.
also came from the lowest level. I just thought, nice. I'm literally I'm even worse than where I started. I was at the lowest level of Dutch educational system, worked my way up, and now I'm literally like further away than I've ever been, because I just can't read. I can't read. And so in the hospital, I started a sustainable fashion company and a merchandising company. And this experience was just always like in my mind. And then I did these two companies, and then this was always just somewhere in the back. And in 2021, I thought, I didn't know much about tech or anything, what developers actually did, like zero clue. But no one really tried to solve this. And I spoke with some neuropsychologists, like, could this work? Could we create something in audio that makes people really remember? Like, what do you think? Like, and then they said, oh, we can do some research. It will be 50K. I was like, nice. Don't got that budget now. But then it was, for me, it was just a decision, either continue like the suit company, and I knew where that could go. That was very gradual, or take a very big leap of faith and try this one. And then it's very easy if you know that you got nothing to lose. And I thought the impact of this could be a zillion times bigger. Because in the suit company, I always said like, oh no, if someone buys a suit, they feel better, they're more confident, they can perform better in their life. We can also sell books to them so they feel better and they're happy with themselves. I was trying to put all kinds of things within a company which was selling suits. And then I thought I could rather just build a product which in its truest essence helps people. Like, it helps them get away from screens, it helps them remember. That made more sense to me.
So you go on this journey from the bottom to the top, and you then back to the bottom again.
Yeah.
And your response is, it gives you a better idea of a problem you could solve.
Yeah, because also the other companies came forth out of problems I encountered myself in first instance. And this one as well, only this one hurted 10 times more because it made me feel inadequate. It made me feel like a moron. And that's just, I think, one of the worst things. If you feel stupid, like, that's not good.
And then how did you know, after sort of concepting it and prototyping it, that you were onto the right thing?
So I had the idea of restarting it in February, like beginning of February. In March, I had the first content ready and I gave it to some students. And in April, we had those results. And then 29 of the 30 students said, like, this is fantastic. And one guy had a photographic memory. So he was like, this is not my thing. I was like, okay, not the target audience. But one girl told me, like, yeah, because you always tell me in the fragments that, because there's always a little bit of motivation within the fragments. So because you tell me that then usually, like I always listen to your content before I go to bed. Usually I'm very stressed during the day in exam period, but now I just hear your voice in my head saying it will be all right. It's like, wow. And the guy with dyslexia, Gijs is his name. He told me, so I gave him a call after he used it, and he said, like, I would be in the library and I would see all the screens around me flashing by because people were reading very quickly. And he told me that he could read a bit, and then at some point his brain would just shut down, and he would feel like, what the fuck's wrong with me? Because everyone's doing this and I can't. And then he said that at that point, he now closed his eyes and leaned back with his earbuds in and listened to my podcast. Then I was like, this is insane. If we can do this just from, because I was renting like this anti-squat cracky office, but if we can do this from this run down place, and this is the effect somewhere else has in a different city, that's magic. There's not much more in the world than if that isn't magic, I don't know what it is.
Right. And so, what do you think's holding back your business now, if anything? If you've nailed this magic opportunity?
Now finding the right partners, getting it in the hands of users, of young people.
Right.
That's it.
And do people that you talk to in business, do they misunderstand you in any way? Do they get things wrong?
Good question. I don't know. There's a couple, like,
What do you think people
people
miss
don't
about you as you sell what you're selling and drive towards your vision?
what this can be. Like, we still don't understand as human beings that we've been talking to each other for hundreds of thousands of years. Been here 300,000 years as Homo sapiens. We've only been reading like a couple of 100 years. And there's how we went about that was, okay, we can read now, we can print, let's make this the way to gather knowledge. Interesting thing is, I think it's just with audio, it's like there's so much space we just haven't discovered yet. We've got podcasts and audiobooks, which are relatively new, from a niche product to like consumer using it. But you can do so much more if you use the right formats, if you make it engaging, if you ask enough questions in the fragments. Like, there's just not that much science on how to make sure that if someone listens for 10 minutes, that they learn. That's frustrating because everyone knows podcasts, but there's so much more space and it can help so many people.
I think, do you think people understand that Anywyse has got a bolder vision of unlocking people's free will? Because that's what you're doing, isn't it? Taking people like that are dyslexic, that think differently, that struggle to use our current tools to comprehend, and you're giving them another ways, and isn't that what you're really doing? You're unlocking their free will and potential.
What hurts me there is that, yes, that they can't. That if you have a dream and you have ADHD or dyslexia, for example, that you need to give up on it way sooner than someone else. If you want to become a doctor, you need to study a lot, probably won't do it. And the fact that you have that goal or that dream in life and you really want to do that, and this is currently the blocker, which is unnecessary, that hurts me.
Why does it hurt you?
Because it's unnecessary. It is literally not necessary. We can build ways around it. These people, and the effect of it is that if someone can't achieve that, their goal is that they feel like they get a lesser view of themselves, so they respect themselves less, or they're like, and that is something which is, you take that with you your entire life. and that's unnecessary.
And do you think your clients realize what you're really doing? You know, a guy talking that
No,
way. Why
no, I
not?
don't think so. Because we've been focusing a lot on how to make it a good use case for example, publishers, and then it needs to be for everyone. So all students need to benefit from it.
Right.
And then you're building a product which helps everyone a little bit. But if you really want to solve this deep problem, ADHD, dyslexia, you need to double down on that and build something that only works for them, for this 10% in the world.
Do you think you've accepted
That's what
the
I believe.
idea that you're a visionary? Or are you wrestling with it?
Yeah, I feel some resistance if you say that, because it's an ego trip in my.
And from ego comes power, and power comes an ability to constrain someone's free will.
An interesting train of thought.
Are you worried that you're just going to become the teacher that held back your friend's wonder or curiosity?
No, I think I'm afraid that people see me as arrogant.
Why is that? Are you arrogant?
Define arrogant.
You said it, man. You define it.
Yeah, but so I think arrogant is thinking that you're better than someone else.
Sounds like you just think everyone could be better versions of what they are. You're not talking about yourself.
Yeah, they should, because it's possible.
Maybe you just are scared of accepting it. What does accepting the role of the visionary mean to you?
I think it's accepting, or I don't know. I think it again in my line of thinking. It's accepting the fact.
Yeah.
Kind of difficult to answer this. I don't
It's a bit odd
completely
for
know.
someone that had a near-death experience and lives by, hey, I'm not getting killed and I'm not dying. So it sounds a bit odd that
Got
you're
nothing to
worried about
lose.
something like that. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so as well.
Most visionaries are ordinary people that care about something more than everyone else combined. Singular in their thought on it. It's just the nature. It doesn't mean they're arrogant. Definitely doesn't mean they're closed-minded. And it definitely doesn't mean they restrict someone else's ability to think freely. The problem's not going to go away, and you're not going to go away from it. It's been 4 years.
Yep.
You don't sound like the type of guy that stops.
If we can solve it.
Hmm. You know, there's a really simple conundrum here, which is if you just accepted the role of the visionary, how would your conversations change? And how would your outcomes change? Versus wrestle with it.
I think the thing I'm afraid for, the fear which I have if you embrace that role, that I can come off as immature
Yeah.
or a dreamer.
Where's that come from? Has someone called you that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've had that a couple of times.
Are they important?
No, not really. No, I think of it.
Hmm.
But at that time they were.
Sure. My suggestion would be just let it go.
I think so.
It sounds like someone's constricting your free will, and they're not even. It's your history. It's not even. It's not even real.
That's very true.
Right. Right. Well, I think what stands out for me today from our conversation is that you're driven by making sure people have the fullest possible serve of free will. And your particular problem has brought you to people that read and take in information differently than those that you would consider common. And then you experienced it yourself. And in some ways, that's enough to kill people in their tracks. Whether it's not that the cancer didn't kill you, going back to the bottom of the rung also didn't kill you. That seems to be a visionary to me. Combine that with a clear articulation of what you think the future is. That's a vision. Embrace it. Brace that is a role, not that as a statement. Is there anything on your mind?
A lot of things race through my thoughts. Like I noticed that my brain is in the solution modus. So like, first it thought, indeed, what if you embrace it? Then I thought, why am I not doing that? And then I thought, maybe partially Dutch culture.
Maybe it's just the same experience everyone has if they feel like their free will's been constrained because they're different. And you're just going through the same thing that your users go through. It's like, got to leave them behind. They don't want to hold on. They don't want to hold back my own potential. They're still holding on to my free will. They're not even here. Might not even be alive. Maybe that's all it is.
Thank you for that insight.
Yeah, look, I think you're right. You are onto something. I think today we highlighted why this is your problem. We also identified that you're not really someone that quits easily, but I think the big struggle, and I think you've got to lean into it and start telling people, is that you are a visionary, because the way you thought about this problem after experiencing it was to react with an optimism, an ideal state that isn't the current one, and to challenge the whole way we think about comprehension as we do it. You could justify it that all of these things, there are things from your past that tell you that you can't be this way, or there are things in normal society that people would envisage as arrogant or closed-minded around visionaries. You could do all those things, or you could just accept the lesson that you've already learned, which is, hey man, what do you got to lose?
That's very true. Nothing.
Nothing. You already learned that lesson. You already beat that boss. You didn't let it take you. You've beaten bigger
Need to be a
monsters than
bigger
the
one.
ones that are holding you back. destroyed them, kicked them out of the park, done things that I definitely couldn't have done. Most people can't do. That was you. It wasn't your grandfather. Wasn't anyone around you. It was you. Just accept who you are. People are ready for it. People want it.
Time.
Cool. All right.